Welcome to the third event on day one of the 33rd Swindon Festival of Literature. And the third event is sold out on the first day. Who would believe it? Whoop, whoop, whoop. You are in a theatre, come cowshed, where 57 years and 6 months ago, cows were being milked, or they would have just been let out at this time of day. I never quite know what's coming when I booked an author. I've read their book, but I'm not quite sure about the human being. But I've just walked around the farm with a human being who said, "Wow, what a beauty." She wasn't talking about me. She wasn't talking about one of Andrea's lettuces. She wasn't talking about anything but our chestnut tree, our 200-year-old chestnut tree, which is a beauty. Will you please join me in giving a Swindon Festival of Literature welcome to Harriet Rix.
Thank you so much. It is such a joy to be here in the ancient town of Swindon, near the Ridgeway, near Avebury, near Stonehenge, quite near Stonehenge, and also in a place which is responsible for one of the greatest inventions that trees have ever given the world, which is, of course, the steam railway. It's really kind of you to come inside as well on such a beautiful evening, because I know that we have all been looking at the bluebells as they grow. This is a picture from the Bluebell Wood, which is near my home in Devon. It's an interesting one because it looks like the perfect bluebell wood, it looks like the perfect ancient woodland. But as many people here will know, it's not. It's actually a monoculture of oak. All the trees are about 100 years old. And it was one of the woods which was clear cut in the First World War and then cut again in the Second World War. But the very interesting thing about it is not actually a particularly healthy woodland. But it is a woodland I love, it's a woodland I grew up with. And I don't know how many people here would know that oak trees grow in a rock. I was amazed to find them, and I was amazed to see that they had storks nesting in them. I was amazed that there was this sort of continual oak band all the way around the world in what I had thought was a desert landscape. And I ended up being completely enraptured by the oak trees there. But what really amazed me about them was they were working with so little. This picture shows an open-grown oak next to the greater Zab River. And if you go across those mountains, you get into Iran. But if you look at those trees as they are, it looks like they have plenty of water. 2 months later, this will be a completely parched landscape. And the trees themselves will have had to senesce. They'll probably have to drop their leaves will have gone brown, they'll drop them, and they'll be left with very little water to live on. But they will hang on. And I remember thinking, this is extraordinary. How can trees, which are so similar in outward appearance in some ways, it could easily be a tree in an open-grown field in Oxfordshire in some ways. How is it that the two of them have managed to hang on in these very different environments? And that was how I started to think, well, it's not really about what we do to the trees. We shove them in the ground and we can be quite mean to them. But when they start to grow, what is it that they're doing to they can't move, but what are they doing to shape the world around them? So the whole book really is about what trees can do when they have light and water and air. Because they have this chance to link together these carbon bonds in such a variety of ways, they can shape everything around them. Because we think of movement, we think of agency, we think of action. But of course, if you can shape chemicals, you don't have to move. You can influence things to move for you. You can make animals move for you, for example, pollinate you, spread your seeds. You can make fire work for you, and you can make water work for you too. What was it that enabled them to live? Was it just that the mountains were bringing down the water, or was it that they were in some way able to spread across using their own sort of powers of colonization, essentially? But there are three ways that trees can act to bring down rain in a chemical point of view, and I'm just going to quickly whiz through them because some of them were a real sort of revelation to me. I just hadn't realised this. The first is that when trees are releasing little bits of carbon, they're seeding rain. And cloud seeding is something that the Saudis have tried. Lots of people have tried it with sort of silver iodide and things like that. But trees have been doing it for millions of years. And if you lie under a tree and you smell it, this is particularly true of things like laurels and bay, and that very sort of pungent smell. Those little volatile organic compounds are the things which go up into the clouds and can act like sort of grit in an oyster to seed rain. It's a really tricky thing to measure, it's a really tricky thing to work out how this is happening, but trees are indubitably doing this. And the question is, have they just evolved so that every time they released a little bit of carbon into the atmosphere, they got a little hit of rain back? Or was there something more complicated going on there? And so you get this sort of amazing turbulence. If you look across the Amazon, you think it'll be this sort of sea of delightful green. Actually, what happens, I went up this, there's a tower in the Amazon called the Amazon Tall Tower Observatory, and it's a sort of, it's a sort of scaffolding pile. And you get to the top, and scientists have done it so they can measure all the volatile organic compounds being released by the Amazon. They also come across in little planes at the same time, so it really is, it's very comical. There's this tiny plane sort of rocking over, and then people sort of capturing things, capturing nothing in little pots from this scaffolding tower. And there's a theory called the biotic pump theory, which states that if you have continuous tree cover from the coast, you can cycle your water in and in and in. And this will mean that the continental interior, which should be completely dry, can have trees in it. So trees have developed, not intentionally of course, but through evolution, to kind of perpetuate their species across an entire continent. Trees also take fire. One of the big misconceptions is that for a tree to burn is always a bad thing. It is obviously for some trees. For others, like pine, eucalyptus, it's a real tool in their armory. They're not trying to be kind, they're not trying to help anyone else, they're being bitter and selfish, and they want to wipe out everything all around them. And so pine will actually live on a circulation cycle of about 20 years. And if you plant, this has real implications for forestry, because all the fast-growing trees tend to love catching fire, because that's why they grow fast. They burn, and then after they've burnt, they can grow up extremely fast and outpace all the competition. The problem with this has been that as climate change has got worse, there's been more and more of an intensity of fire, whereas before there was sort of mock fire. And trees can release chemicals which act as a sort of, it's like an alcohol covering. I don't know, has anyone ever played Snapdragon? So you can pick up alcohol, when it's alight, and the flame will run down your arm and you don't get hurt. And this is what trees can do, because it sweeps out everything. It's hygienic, it gets rid of all the pests and diseases. It's fertilizing, it gives them nitrogen and phosphate so that their seeds can grow up really fast. This has happened before, and one example of that is with the megafauna. So once upon a time, there were animals like elephants in every continent. As the megafauna got lost, humans started to move into their place, and we are now the only things that tend to spread these huge us and some big monkeys. Of course, the avocado is a really lovely example of something. It was hanging on in Ecuador through the Ice Age. It then expanded out. When humans spread it to Africa, elephants were absolutely overjoyed and went wild for avocados. And of course, the avocado had rediscovered its megafauna. And so that's a really lovely example of something where an ecological web had a bit cut out of it, and then humans sort of put the bit back in. Thank you so much.
Harriet, you like trees, don't you?
I do.
You're smitten. And she called her book The Genius of Trees. Her chapter headings are trees shaping water, trees shaping fire, trees shaping fungi, trees shaping everything. And I thought, I wonder if trees are happy about, the little trees are happy with goats, and the slightly bigger ones are happy with elephants, and the even taller ones are happy with giraffes. Who's shaping whom? And I wonder whether you're so smitten and you're so in love with them that you don't see, what about giraffes and goats and elephants? Trees aren't shaping them, they're shaping trees. What do you say to that?
I say rubbish. I think that would be true if Elephants could produce their own food from the sun, but they can't. I think you've been sold a dud, you see. I think you see the elephant tearing at the tree and you think this is the tree being the victim. But actually the elephant would never be able to exist without the tree.
There are 3 trillion trees on the planet. How many would you like to see? And how many?
How many do we need?
How many do we need?
That's a really interesting question. I obviously want to get back to 6 trillion, maybe a couple more. I think as we have uncoupled from trees, as we've stopped needing their wood, and we've started relying on their stability, that's why people are planting trees in floodplains. That's why people are planting trees over hillsides. They're trying to stabilise the world. It's a moot point. You know, do we want to be humans without trees? I think most of us would say no. Do we want to expand trees across the Sahara? From that point of view, yeah, I think we could happily get back to 6 trillion, and it wouldn't, I don't think it would worry us at all. I don't think it would impede our lives. I think it would make our lives better.
One of the reasons I booked you was because I saw you talking to trees.
This is a really low blow. It's a really nasty question, actually. I thought we were friends. I feel that our imagination is a very good way of thinking about trees. I don't expect trees to love me because I really don't think trees care about me. I want to have humility enough that I can value a tree without it loving me back.
It was actually a highly imaginative process by Harriet putting words into the tree's bark, so to speak. Thank you all very much for coming. Thank you, Waterstones, for looking after us. But most of all, a Swindon Festival of Literature thank you to Harriet Rix.
Thank you for having me. It's really lovely to see you.
What did you think of the talk, ladies?
It was very cheerful. She was very enthusiastic.
I loved being in her company for an hour. I got a lot of insights and enthusiasm, but the level that I'm at, that sufficed for me.
Yeah. I must admit, it left me behind as well.
Oh, I didn't say it left me behind.
Oh, well, I apologise. I didn't mean to insinuate.
That sufficed.
Give us your opinion about what you thought of the event then.
Oh, it was fascinating, wasn't it? Really interesting. Yeah, I thought it was good. As you said, you sort of assume that everything else is affecting the tree because the tree is stationary.
So did the trees design humans to cut them all down? I presume something went wrong.
Possibly not, yes.
So just watched the event, what did you make of it? And you bought the book as well.
I bought the book, I just thought it was brilliant. Yeah, it sort of make you think about trees in a completely different way. A lot of people ask some good questions at the end.
Yeah, I refrained from asking stupid questions. I was going to ask, zombie apocalypse, do we end up with desert or do we end up with trees reclaiming everything?
I've taken you up on that answer, I don't know. They do say that the London plane trees are a bit like zombies. The London plane they're the ones in the centre of Swindon.
All right.
They're the ones with all the bark that falls off and they've got the round baubles on.
Yeah.
You see them by the town hall and stretching all the way down Regent Street, and they are a very recent cross between a Chinese tree and a North American tree. The tree hunters in 1680 brought these two specimens back. They got together and they made the London plane, and they are very good at living in really environments that are full of congestion because their bark strips off, and they don't know how long they're going to live for.
Right.
One of the ones that they grew then is still alive. It's like 400 years old. And they don't know how old it's going to stay. It's the story of a zombie, a real life tree zombie.
Amazing. I did not expect to get that, but thank you very much.
To do with that.
Hello, gentlemen. Can I grab you for an opinion? I'm from the Talking newspaper in Swindon.
Oh, right.
I wondered what you thought of the event.
I thought it was a really fantastic talk, and one of the best things about it was enthusiasm.
Yeah.
So what you're getting in that talk is someone with enormous knowledge, a good scientific background, and an extraordinary range of personal experience. But the outstanding thing for me was actually the enthusiasm and the passion that she brought to the subject, which was great.
Has it reframed how you're thinking about trees now, having heard this talk?
It's inspired me to read the book, because often you can buy books and don't read them.
Oh, I've got plenty of those.
So I better make a public commitment that I will now read the book.
I've asked you your name, you're anonymous, you're fine.
That's great. Okay. Let's quit there.
Thanks for your time.
Not at all, thank you.